This video is about how to use one-to-one matching in the catalog search tool. From the IRSA homepage, let's go to catalogs, and then we first have to choose the project. For this example, I'm going to use 2MAS. Select. Now I have to choose which catalog I want. For this, I'm going to choose the AllSky point source catalog. Select. Now I can do a single object search, but for this example, that's not what I want to do. I want to do a multi-object search. Then I want to go and find a list of sources in IPAC table format. Now I'm going to turn on one-to-one matching. What that will do is take every source in my input list and look for the closest source in the 2MAS point source catalog within 10 arc seconds, and it will only return one source per row. So even if there's 3 sources within 10 arc seconds, it will only return the closest source to the position that I have listed. For 2MAS, typically I have a match that's much smaller than 10 arc seconds, but I'm going to leave it as 10 arc seconds because I want to show you something when the search finishes. Okay, run query. Okay, it's come back. I had 316 sources in my input list, and there's 316 sources returned. You can see that the sources are all over the sky. So the image that it's using here is an AllSky 2MAS image. It's made a plot. By default, it's just position on the sky. And then here is the list of the search results. So you can see for the first source on my list, it found a match within 0.039748 arc seconds. So that's probably a legitimate match. Here, it didn't find a match to that source. And it didn't find a match to this source either. So there's a couple things I can do. I can, for example, sort this list so that all of the rows are now ordered by distance from the input position. I can also put it back the way that it was. I can also filter the results. I can, for example, ask it to only keep the sources where the distance is greater than 0. Let's cancel the filters because at this point it might best serve my interest to simply save the file. And because I have the same number of rows as I did in the input in the same order, merging the catalogs becomes really easy. I can just paste the 2 files together, and I know that they'll be in the same order with the same number of rows. But for this example, let's change what's plotted. So instead of RA for the x-axis, let's use J magnitude. For the y-axis, instead of declination, let's use that offset between my requested position and the match that it found. Apply. Close. So now it's made that plot here where I've got distance on the y-axis and brightness on the x-axis, and you can see that it's finding a match pretty consistently within 2 arc seconds, which is what I expected. But it does have some that are way off here. In order to explore whether or not, say, that's a really good match, if I click on the source in the plot, it jumps to that source in the table. This one is an IRSA source. So maybe it's legitimate that it needs to go 10 arc seconds before it finds the counterpart in 2MAS because the IRSA position errors can be large. But that particular source is something that I might want to look into in more detail. What about this source? That one may also be an IRSA source. But at least now I have a list of sources that I can investigate further. So if I click and drag in the plot and select those large offset points and then filter down the catalog, I have only the large offset points to investigate left in this catalog. At any rate, this is the power of the one-to-one match because it'll get you the closest match within the search radius that you've given it. And for every line that you have in the input file, it gives you a line in the output file. So it becomes really easy then to merge catalogs.